Hi everyone. Welcome to this edition of Azure Thursdays. Today we have with us Shikha Agarwal, who is a senior technical architect in data and AI. She's a Kaggle and a AI practitioner, enabling organizations to reimagine their future by harnessing data using both descriptive and predictive analytics. And she's going to talk about how to innovate with Azure machine learning and cognitive APIs. Microsoft believes in democratizing creativity. With that end objective, Microsoft has created the Azure Machine Learning Platform, which enables citizen data scientists to draw insights from the data they understand so well. Along with AML, which is Azure Machine Learning, cognitive APIs enable you to infuse intelligence in your apps in the area of vision, text, language, and decision making. And this session will give you a quick overview of these capabilities that should enable you to progress faster in your journey of innovation. So we'll be having a few slides, and then we'll have quite a few demos, which Shikha will take us through. And meanwhile, you can ask your questions in the chat, and whenever we are ready, I will relay your questions to Shikha. With that, over to you, Shikha. We can start off the presentation.
Thank you, Vinayak. Good morning and very warm welcome to entire audience on this session on how to innovate with Azure machine learning and cognitive APIs. The fact is we have been talking about digital transformation for quite some time now. And when we talk about harnessing data, at a strategic level, we are basically trying to create new experiences, new intelligent systems that enable us to accomplish four things. So, the first thing is we want to engage our customers in new, meaningful ways. The second is we want to transform our products based on the signals from end users or even the products themselves. Then we want to empower our employees with real time insights that they need to take the right decisions and be agile. And finally, we want to optimize our operations by better estimating customer demands and disruptions in the external environment. Now, truth is, most organizations have been capturing data for a while now, and shift is needed from data ingestion to really insight generation. From a Microsoft's point of view, we believe that you can bring AI to every application, every business process, and every employee. And in fact, we are pursuing that within our own organization today with advancement in compute power and its availability on cloud and significant improvements in algorithms over the last couple of years, the environment is actually ripe for us to capitalize on this tremendous opportunity. In today's session, I will just talk about how Microsoft is truly on its vision to democratize creation and is making it super easy for every organization, for every individual to infuse intelligence into their products and embark on a journey of innovation and data driven decision making. And towards this journey, I'm going to share with you two broad categories of offerings. So one is in the form of Azure Cognitive Services. Now, what has happened is like in the field of computer vision and NLP, we have actually reached human level parity. And by that, what I mean is today, given an image or given a text, we can understand it almost as good as humans do. Very close to that. And companies like Microsoft have capitalized on this, and what they've done is the research effort that have been spent over the last so many years, the end result of that has been exposed as APIs, which can then be consumed by organizations, by individuals and they can then infuse intelligence into their applications without investing in massive and expensive data science projects. So we have a whole stack of cognitive services which can broadly be categorized into four distinct areas. So relating to vision, relating to speech, language, and decision making. And I will walk through a number of demos in each of these areas to kind of showcase to you what is today achievable with very minimal effort. The next offering that I want to talk to you is Azure Machine Learning Platform. And with AML, we have four promises that guide our investments. We want to make machine learning accessible to data scientists and developers of all skill levels. Most machine learning is OSS, and we want to enable data scientists and developers to use the tools and frameworks that best meet their
Shikha, I'm
needs.
sorry.
Sure.
1 second. We might be facing some technical difficulties. Just give us a second, please.
Connecting now.
Yeah, it's clicking join now. I see that connecting.
Okay, it's connected now.
Okay, I think we're fixed. We can continue now.
Sure. So I'm going to now share my screen. Just give me a minute to walk you through a couple of demos that will showcase the capabilities of Azure Cognitive Services as well as Azure Machine Learning Platform. So let me start with the cognitive APIs, right? So as I mentioned earlier, we have cognitive APIs in the realm of computer vision, text, language, and decision making. Let me just start with one of the favorite offerings in the field of computer vision. Now, what you see here on the screen is a website that will enable searching through multitude of documents that I believe every organization and every department in the organization has, be it HR, legal, IT. We have tons and tons of documents, and typically what happens that we are not able to, the stakeholders are not able to make complete use of this rich repository that we have. So to just give you an example, if I were to, like, for example, search here for quantum in this repository, let us see the results that we get. Right. So here now what we see here is this particular image, and this image has come up in the result set because this website that you see here is under the hood actually walked through, sifted through each of the documents that I uploaded to Azure Cognitive Search API. It then performed optical character OCR on each of those documents, extracted the text, created rich information, indexed it all, and made it available to us through this website. Now, all this has been accomplished in less than half an hour without writing a single piece of code. And to show you how powerful this is, I could actually, let me show you another result here, another search example here. So let us say I search for data lake here. Now you see this document that has come up here, right? This document has come up because I have this data lake as a handwritten text, and it is even able to extract this and index it and make it available for search. Right. So this is a very, very powerful offering. Now you can imagine if I had thousands of documents and I wanted to create a solution like this from scratch. Imagine the effort that I'll have to invest. Each of those documents, and it could be a PowerPoint presentation, it could be a Word document, it could be Excel, it could be PDF. I will have to have a processing engine that understands each of these documents, executes OCR on that, extracts text from that, enriches it using various, mechanisms, be it, most frequently occurring words or even entity recognition, and then create an index. And on top of that, create this user interface, which can then utilize the index that I have created to then, furnish these results. Now, all that has been encapsulated in this beautiful API by the name of Azure Cognitive Search. The next capability that I want to show you is again making use of optical character recognition. So let us say I have some kind of invoice, right? And I have this form recognition, which can actually, again, without any training whatsoever, this is off-the-shelf form recognizer API. So I can use that. And then when I give this particular document, which is really what I showed you here, it will extract all the information from this, right? The subtotal, the tags, everything. So subtotal, tags, total, and what you see here, it has extracted everything, and you can then make use of it. Similarly, I will show you another example. So this particular document that we see here, it's a receipt, right? So now if I show you here, it's a receipt of this nature. Now again, the same form recognizer API, when I use this to extract information, see the rich information that has been extracted. So the merchant name is Contoso, address is 123 Main Street, Redmond, the items that I've purchased is 8 GB RAM, and the subtotal is 1098 from 99, and which is really what we see here, right? Now the beauty of this solution is, of course, I had to actually invest no effort whatsoever to get this rich API at my disposal. Now, if I were to build a solution like this, I would need tons and tons of data and a rich algorithm, and then I will have to train it on massive compute to build a solution of this accuracy. Now here, while I do have this off-the-shelf solution available to me, I even have the ability to custom train this for my specific document if the results were not accurate enough, and I can train it with as little as 20 documents, whereas if I were to build this solution from scratch, I would need thousands and thousands of training data. And anyone who's dealing in computer vision, I would say the most complicated and effort intensive activity is to have training data. Now, moving on, another capability that I want to show you is face recognition. Now, talking about face recognition, we are actually seeing multiple uses of that. So it is not just an ability to extract a face from an image. It is also the emotions that, the face recognition cognitive API is enabling us to get. So for example, if we see this image, we can see that there is an element of surprise here. If we see this particular image, it's a happy face. Now what is happening today, we are utilizing the sentiment from facial expressions to build a very interesting set of capabilities. So we may have, various departments in our retail stores and people are shopping out there, or we may have conversations going on in, at a dealership, and we can have this kind of, capability by means of a camera, which is recording videos and then determining sentiment analysis. And whenever we see an anomalous situation, we can actually take an action to rectify the situation without any human intervention and without any expense to monitor each and every situation, be whatever may be the the area, the expanse of the area that we are trying to monitor. So another example just to showcase is like, this is an image, and we have a computer vision API. When I route this image through that API, it tells me what the image is about, just like we as humans do. So it says a man is riding a motorcycle. So this is again very, very beneficial. A lot of times we want to give capability in our website, in our apps, to upload images, and we want to be sure that the images are relevant, and this particular API can really help us to do that. Finally, there are lots and lots of situations today, like for example, we want to ensure that anyone who is entering our premises is wearing a mask, or there is we want to be able to classify whether the crops, the harvest that we see today is infested. So there are multiple scenarios wherein we want to classify images, and then there are multiple scenarios wherein we want to perform object detection. Okay, so now again, to build this kind of solution, we need huge number of training data, whereas in this case, the custom vision API, and you can see the code that you have here, it's fairly minimal. And in this particular example, what I wanted to do is to classify whether I do have a sedan here or I have an SUV. And as you can see, I custom trained this API with just 10 images, and I'll show you the results that I get here. When I uploaded this particular image, this model actually gave me with 99.47% surety that this is an SUV. Similarly, when I tried with this particular sedan, I got with 99.82% surety that this is actually a sedan. Now, to do all this, I don't need to actually go into write a Python code, where of course I do have this functionality, but then I have this nice user interface wherein I can basically start a new project, add images, okay, and then tag them and train my model, and finally I can run predictions. And when I'm done, I can then deploy these models onto a edge device or to a Kubernetes container without writing a single piece of code. So that is another example wherein Microsoft is making super easy for each one of us to build innovative applications. Now, for the final example in the field of computer vision is about video analytics. So what you see here is a video of a retail store, and then I gave this video to my video analytics API, right? What I got was very, very interesting information. So it extracted, the key frames in this video, and then it told me, that this particular video is about a marketplace. It is about a greengrocer. It is having, a bakery, a retail, vegetarian food, whole lot of this, relevant information, which again is extremely useful in several scenarios. So with that, I will move on to the next section, which is decision making. Now, talking about text, there are several scenarios wherein we want to understand what the text is all about, whether there is any personal information in that, like email, like phone number. So we want to be very, very sensitive to the PII information. Then we want to understand whether there are any profane words, what kind of text it is. Now, for that, we have a content moderator API. And so, for example, in this case, when I feed in this particular text to it, it tells me, this text has got these PII information. So this is the email, it then has this IP address, this is this, phone number, and then this is the country code, and this is the address. And then it can also tell me what is, the category of the text, of the content in it, what is the degree of profanity. And so we can basically understand our text, and basis this, we can moderate our text. Right now, another API that I want to tell you is personalizer. Now, this has tremendous values to us, and it is based on reinforcement learning, which is I would say a very fairly complex data science algorithm. And now with this API, we have made it super simple for anyone to use in personalizer API reinforcement reinforcement learning to build compelling solutions, right? So for example, to give you an example, today we really want to have some kind of recommender engine which will tell us what we should be suggesting to our customers, employees. So we may have internally, we may have a learning management system, and when an employee goes through to that website, we want to tell the employee what would be, you know, the right content for him. Or for a retail website, and several retailers are actually doing it very, very well. Where as we start shopping, we want to have insights, we want to have the right recommendations, and that actually results in, you know, a manifold increase in revenue. So now here, this personalizer API, what we do is we just feed in the set of choices, and we execute a loop wherein the API, when it is untrained, it does not know, it is not trained yet. So it will pick up a random choice, and then as it picks up a random choice, we tell it its reward on the basis of whether the choice was correct or not. And so we run a loop wherein this algorithm comes up with its recommendation, and we then tell it its reward. And slowly, on the basis of the reward that it is being fed in, the algorithm learns on its own and builds a great personalizer solution. So for example, what you see here, here we have these various coffee that people choose to drink, and their choices really depend on who the person is, what kind of weather it is, and this reinforcement learning model is actually getting trained and then giving us great results. Now, the final capability that I want to show you is in the realm of text. So like, for example, today what I can do is as I speak, I can actually translate it or rather transcribe it. So I'm going to speak to my microphone here, and then you will be able to see the translation right then and there. So let me just start this. First, I'll show you in Hindi, and then we'll do it in English, right? So let me. आज एक बहुत अच्छा दिन है. So you can see immediately it translated, and it translated it very, very well. Now, let me show you an example, similar example in English. We're having a wonderful discussion today. Right. So again, you can see it is able to translate this, and of course we can have the vice versa thing also here. So for example, if I have some text, it can then be converted into audio, and let me show you an example of that as well. So if I run this, it will actually get converted into this file, test.wav, which I am then, basically I'm going to play it for you. So as you can see, it is able to translate that. Now, the beauty is this capability coupled with sentiment analysis enables us to build powerful solutions, and we are seeing actually a massive adoption of this capability in various call centers. And I will now actually give you a scenario wherein, just to showcase an end-to-end solution. So here now we saw that I have this text in test.wav, and what I'm doing here is that I'm feeding this test.wav to this, you can see this small piece of code, wherein what I'm trying to do is read this particular wave file, simulating a call center conversation here, and then I'm routing it through sentiment analysis. And now after I get sentiment analysis, I then, let us say my scenario is like, if I'm having a great session, I want that to be informed to relevant stakeholders so that, they can market that session. All right. So as you can see here, it has basically extracted this text from the audio file, and then it figured out that the sentiment was positive and the score was positive 1.1. And because I'm then sending this information to Teams, and I'll quickly go there and show you. So I've just created like a sample team um, teams here. So here you see I just get this this kind of text here, that this is a positive sentiment, and this is the corresponding text. So now this is just to kind of showcase the possibilities that we have with our cognitive APIs and rest of the ecosystem to build scalable end-to-end solutions. So so what I want to kind of show you with that is, in terms of Azure Cognitive Services, we have these entire set of capabilities here. So when we talk about decision, we have personalizer, content moderator, anomaly detector, and matrix advisor. And you can make a note of this API, and this will basically help you see what possibilities we have. Language understanding, Q&A maker, and I just attempted to showcase few of the capabilities. I hope you found them interesting. And now I will move on to the next section, which is essentially Azure machine learning. Now, with Azure Machine Learning Platform, right, we can actually build custom solutions. So we saw how cognitive APIs have truly democratized AI, and without writing any code, we can build powerful solutions in the most complicated scenarios, which is computer vision and NLP, right? Now, there are several scenarios wherein we want to build our custom models. And when we talk about machine learning, the first thing is understanding our data. So I'm now quickly going to show you, how we can get insights of our data. So like what you see here on the screen here, right? We have this data set, and for each attribute, I can see the distribution. So for example, I can see when it comes to job, or when it comes to age, the minimum is 17, the max is 94, and the distribution is such that the maximum number of people are in the age group of 32 to 40, right? And we have like various information, various attributes here, right? So we have missing count, we have empty count, we have error count, we have mean, standard deviation, skewness, kurtosis. We even have quartile information, right, for each and every attribute, be it categorical or be it numeric. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually do this without writing a single piece of code. So what I need to do is just create a data set, and when I say that, I just give it a name. So like I just say, okay, maybe my data set. Okay, it is a tabular data set, and then I just browse for that data set here. So in my downloads, I have a couple of CSV files. So I'm just gonna pick this loan eligibility file, and then I'm gonna it will now upload this file and try to understand it and show us a preview once it is done understanding it. So let us see, shortly it should show me a preview. It is still parsing the data set, and then we will be able to upload it. And now it's giving me a preview here, and what we see here that the headers are there in the first line, and so I make that selection. Now this is typically available, I would say, in most tools when that we use to import our data. But the beauty is, after we upload this data set, so I got this data set here. Now beauty is I can explore it, And without writing any code whatsoever, I can go into profile and it will give me all this information, which is super helpful for any data scientist, right? The next thing that I want to show you is automated ML. So now anyone who has ever worked, who's associated with data science projects knows that the very first algorithm that we try is never going to be the perfect solution. So we have to try multiple algorithms, multiple hyperparameters before we get results in alignment to our expectations. So now what automated ML does is that it basically runs all these algorithms for us automatically. Right, and it tells us what the accuracy score is, and whatever is the best performing algorithm, it just puts it at the top. And I'll again show you how easy actually it is to do this. So I'm just going to start a new automated ML run. I'm going to select this data set that I just created, which is my data set. Now once I select the data set, it will then ask me to give my, the training run name, and the training run, it refers as an experiment. So let me call it my experiment. Now in supervised learning, yes, we always need a label column, which in this case is Y. And I need to select a compute. So I have this compute by the name of GitHub cluster. And then, so I had to basically create a new experiment here. I'll just do that. And and then I need to basically know what I'm trying to do here. Am I wanting to do classification or regression or time series forecasting? So for example, in this case, I want to do classification. What I have here is, age, marital status, gender, data, these kind of attributes. And using those attributes, I want to predict what kind of credit rating the person would have. And that is about it. That's all. Once I do this, of course, there are advanced features wherein I can select, the algorithms that I want to run, if any kind of feature engineering, specialized feature engineering I want to do. So I can do all that also. But, if I were to select default options, that is pretty much I want to do. Once I do that, it will basically run all the algorithms for me as I showed you. And, another thing is, like, for example, in this case, we see all these models here, and then I have something called as this explanation. Now this is actually super important, because typically, what I have experienced, we as data scientists build a lot of machine learning model, but when it comes to putting them in production, the stakeholders, they see the algorithm as a black box. So if I were running basically a logistic regression, yes, I will have the ranking of the features. But if I were to use like a decision tree or like GBM, I have to write very, very complicated code to figure out the feature importance. And in this automated ML, I get that automatically. So essentially, this is, in line with Microsoft's commitment to build towards responsible ML, wherein we want to be sure that we understand our models, right? So I will show you for this voting ensemble algorithm, it is actually going to tell me what is the mechanism by which it is giving me these predictions. So like, for example, you see here, duration is getting the maximum importance, right? And so next one is the number of days the person has been employed. And with this information, I understand how my model is performing. B, I can take care of fairness. So maybe, let us say, a gender was one of the features that was influencing model behavior. Now that will immediately bring my attention, and basically it will set me thinking, why is that happening? Is it making logical sense? Is it because I don't have enough data for one set of population? And then I can take corrective action. And then Microsoft, of course, has few other libraries like FairLearn and all, using which you can basically retrain your model to get rid of that bias. So these are some of the things that automatically happen when we make use of automated ML. Now, along with that, I get an ability to test my model. So for example, here I have these various attributes and I can give whatever value here I want. And then when I test it, I get certain result. Now, we saw that duration is, playing an important role here. So let me trace where duration is and give it certain value here. Right. So if, let us say, I have this duration here and I increase its value. Now let us see what would happen here, because we saw duration was playing an important role. So you see the result has changed. And that is because, so that is also validation of the explanation that we got. So these are certain features that you get in automated ML. The next thing I want to show you is designer interface. Okay, and you can basically create your machine learning pipelines, be it training, be it inference, using designer interface without writing any piece of code whatsoever. So for example, what I did here was I just selected a design template, right? Now what I can do is basically this gives me a pretty standard template that we follow for any machine learning exercise, right? So like I will have some kind of data. I will select the columns that are relevant to me. I would clean it, I would split it, I would apply some kind of algorithm to it, and then I would train my model. Now, if I were to do this, so I can start with some template, and instead of this data, I can use my data and I can just join this. And here, if I go into the select my columns, I get this nice user interface from where I can select whatever columns I want. Now, in the existing template, we were excluding a certain column by the claim of normalized losses, which does not exist in our data set. So we can just change that. Here we were using boosted decision tree regression. Instead of that, we want to do here classification. And so we have a lot of machine learning algorithms here. And so we can, select our algorithms. So in this case, we want to do 2-class logistic regression. So we can just select that and, use that to train our model, and then just get going. Now, a few other features, like when we clean missing data, there are several options that we want to do. We might want to remove a row, we might want to actually impute our columns with mean, median, and we have several options. So we have here a rich set of options which we can use without actually writing code and train our models. Now, the way I see this as a really compelling offering is that people who play with data day in and day out, they understand it, right? And they usually have an idea, and that is how the work has been going on so beautifully for so many years. So they know how the data basically influences outcomes. Now they can validate their hypothesis without actually learning Python, without learning these complicated algorithms, and coordinate with the rest of the teams and play a pivotal role in data science projects. So this is where I see these two offerings, Automated ML and Designer, playing a very, very key role. Basically, it is now democratizing data science and enabling anyone and everyone to create rich solutions. Now, just want to showcase few more capabilities here. So once you basically train your pipeline, so you have your data, you select your columns, you clean missing data, you split your data into training and validation set, and then you apply a training algorithm and you train your model. Now, post that, what you want to do is either score your batch data, or you want to deploy this model as an API for real-time inference. And so once you do that, you get these two options, real-time inference pipeline or batch inference pipeline. And so you can do that here, and you then as you make selection, you automatically get this code. And so here, like what you basically do is you put in you specify the place where you have the data that you want to score in a batch mode, and you specify the location where you want the scoring output to be placed, and you get this, and you can run your pipeline. You can schedule your pipeline to run periodically. Similarly, if you go for an real-time inference, you actually get a web service deployed, which can then be called from anywhere to score your models. Finally, what I want to show you is how when you are writing custom code. So the other two things that I showed you, they basically enable people to train machine learning models without writing any code. But there are scenarios wherein you will be writing your own code. So for example, here I have this Visual Studio, and I'm basically having a Python notebook. I'm having some Python code that I am using to train model via my custom code. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm actually pushing this training job onto my Azure Machine Learning workspace while I'm writing the code in the editor that I like. And this code is basically residing in GitHub in this repository MLOps Basic. Now, typically, as data scientists, this is a very typical scenario. We work on our machines with a subset of data, and then once we have kind of written our logic, we are comfortable with it, we want the training to be executed on a massive compute power and with the entire training data set. And so here, what I'm going to show you is how beautifully we can automate not just training, but registering the model and its deployment, be it Kubernetes, be it Edge. So here, let me show you what I have here. Here, I just have, a workflow defined here, and it's very, very simple. It's just a normal YAML file. So here, what I'm saying is whenever I push any changes onto my master branch, I want few things to happen. So I want to check out the latest code from my repository. I then want to connect to my machine learning workspace. Subsequent to that, I want to connect to my compute target, and then I want to submit my training run. Post that, I want to register my model and then deploy my model. And so just, for example's sake, let me just make a small change right from within GitHub. Typically, I would be working on my machine as I showed you here, and then I will be, checking in my changes from my machine. But just for demo purposes, let me just make quickly a small change here and commit it. Now, as I commit this change, what will happen is this workflow will start. Now, as you can see here, the workflow has been queued, okay? And now it will execute all the things that I just showed you. So it will connect to this workspace. It will then connect to this compute cluster. And the beauty is these clusters, as you can see, they were all lying in unprovisioned node. Shortly as it starts running, it will they will come from idle state to busy state, right? And I will refresh it, and maybe we can come back to it later to verify that. So far there are 11 runs here. Each, as I showed you, each training run is referred to as an experiment, and we were talking here about MLOps basic and the master repository here. So whenever when I check in my code, I get a new run initiated, and you can see here the rich information that I have, like when each of these runs was initiated, who initiated it, how much time it took, what were the key metrics. So I get all this rich information log. Now imagine if we were to attempt to log this manually. I mean, it would be so effort intensive and such a waste of a data scientist. Now, not only we can log accuracy, we can log whatever metrics that we want to log, and we can even log graphs here, right? And so we can see as we make changes how our key metrics are changing. Now, finally, when the model is trained, we get this particular model artifact again registered in a central registry, so people can coordinate very, very easily. There is no ambiguity in terms of where what model is residing. Okay, and finally, after the training is completed, depending on our configuration, we get endpoint created, and it could be a Kubernetes cluster, it could be a container, it could be edge device, and we are not writing any code for this. And so imagine if we were to do this manually. So this is basically MLOps. GitHub and Azure Machine Learning have created this immensely powerful solution wherein we get to automate end-to-end machine learning life cycle. And so these were some of the capabilities that I wanted to show you that truly enhance productivity and enable us to build compelling solutions. Of course, Microsoft is doing this and much more to ensure that we are able to build compelling solutions. In Ignite, in last Ignite, we just saw that Azure Percept was announced. Now, this is a device that can enable us to build interesting solutions like elevators that respond to voice commands, cameras that notify store managers to restock themselves, and things like that. So there is this device which has compute power at the edge, and the models can be deployed right then and there, and we can actually build a production scale solution within hours. Yes, that is what I wanted to share with you all today. And with that, I want to thank you all for your most valuable time, and hand it back to Vinayak and Kabir to take it forward from here.
Thanks, Shikha. I think that was fairly comprehensive, right? We covered a lot of ground, from cognitive services and different services within it to Azure Machine Learning, automated ML, and eventually, the different MLOps things also you can do in terms of deployments. So there were a few questions about reinforcement learning. Basically, what are the algorithms that are used in reinforcement learning was one of the questions. I have posted a couple of messages in the chat that answer that question, but yeah, if you also want to take that, specifically on personalizer and reinforcement learning.
Right. So as I mentioned, right, if we were to this is essentially, that is what Microsoft has done. It has removed all that complexity from the end users, right? So as we talk about reinforcement learning, typically what happens is basically the algorithm gives the result, gives the choices on the basis of how it ranks each of those choices. And when it gives the choices, we then push back a reward. And that is how the algorithm learns. And so at the back, this is what is learning. What Microsoft has basically done is it has made all this so simple, so that, in our scenario, if we can, with the features that we have, we can just, build our solutions without getting into the complications and intricacies of the real algorithm at the back end.
Absolutely. And I think AutoML actually also kind of builds on what you just said, right? Like, are there any specific cases that you've seen in different industries with the application of AutoML which have been successful?
No, so absolutely. We are seeing actually huge adoption of AutoML because of the reasons I just mentioned. So typically, there are already, most organizations have been capturing data for a long time. So if I talk about, like, let's say a finance industry, let's say a company wherein we have like lending business, right? Today, there are rule-based algorithms basis which they figure out what would be the credit rating of a person. So there are people within the organization who actually understand their data very, very well. However, the algorithms that they are currently utilizing are rule-based, and as data and feature set is growing, there is a limit in terms of what can be achieved via those rule-based engines. Now, what AutoML is, giving them, it is basically serving as a tool which these people who understand their data so well, they can utilize this tool to build compelling machine learning solutions wherein they might be dealing with thousands of features. And they are best placed to validate their hypothesis and build great solutions. So in that regards, we are seeing great adoption of this tool, be it in finance, be it insurance industry, across industries actually.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because many of these, even if you have like a good data scientist team, just the search space in terms of algorithms, in terms of the combinations of features that can work, it's a lot of hard work. And actually, you can actually use that, a combination of your own intuition and domain and AutoML to kind of fine tune the algorithm, right? So it's not like a either or scenario. You can use it as one of the tool sets. And I personally have seen AutoML, a lot of people use it. Like, let's say you are a startup and you want to try out something very fast, but you don't want to spend too many resources on it. And just to get a sense of whether a certain feature, let's say recommendation system or anything else that uses like maybe classification can work or not, you can just quickly kind of roll this out using AutoML, see if it kind of gains traction, if people find it useful, and then if you feel that maybe the algorithms and the features are not as per your liking, you can always kind of fine tune them and invest resources in that, right? So it is like another tool in your arsenal actually to figure out what kind of features to build and how to use. I think Kathleen has also asked another question about what kind of data can be fed and how to transform data to maximize benefit. I think my guess is this is in reference to her earlier question, which was on personalizer. And also, as she asked whether it's available on the in Philippines, the answer is yes. I mean, this is available worldwide. Yeah.
Sure. So for personalizer, I shared a website link. I mean, I would suggest that we can go through that website, and there are GitHub repositories wherein you can see templates of the data format that needs to be fed in for these algorithms. And so using those, if you search for personalizer samples, you would be able to get to a GitHub repository, and wherein you will get complete information in terms of the format of the data, and you can use that as your starting point and take it forward from there.
Great. Yeah, I think we'll wait for a couple of minutes for any more questions. Meanwhile, also, I think one of the questions I personally wanted to ask you and emphasize was regarding the different ways in which you can do deployment for cognitive services, right? You can deploy them in the public cloud, in the private cloud, in a container. You can also integrate it with your, downloadable software in some sense. Maybe you want to quickly kind of talk about that as well.
Sure. So today, what's happening is like, with AI, we today have the capability to build solutions that were earlier unthinkable. So to give you a few examples, right? We have construction sites, we have oil and gas pipelines, we have so many hazardous situations wherein which are kind of inaccessible or not easy to access. Now what we typically want to do there is like install an edge device. Now there are several edge devices today, like what I showed Percept, and there are a number of other OEM manufacturers which basically create these edge device along with Microsoft, and you can deploy these rugged devices in these remote locations, and then these devices can actually communicate with Microsoft Cloud, and the models can then be deployed there. Now that is one scenario. Now the benefit of that is we are talking about huge amounts of data here. So these devices have a camera which is capturing videos which are very heavy feed. So now all this huge volumes of data that does not need to be transported to cloud. The inference can happen right where the device is. We are bringing the compute where the data resides, and then score it, and only when there is an anomalous situation or in the the specific scenarios wherein we want the data to be transferred to cloud or via network, we can do that. So that is one scenario. Another scenario is we might want to deploy it in a Kubernetes environment, and so that is another scenario wherein via configuration using MLOps, we can deploy it in Kubernetes on cloud. And so we may have huge number of, like if we have a retail website, so there are millions of customers and we want to offer recommendations to all those customers, so we can have this machine learning model which can service those millions of concurrent requests via a Kubernetes deployment. Similarly, we can deploy it in a container. So we have these multitude of options depending on our scenario, which we can utilize very easily.
Cool. I think we have no more questions. I think that was very insightful. I think, and also like looking at the demos, right? Looking at makes it really tangible, right? Like rather than just have a presentation and talk about the capabilities. I think the demos were very useful along with the notebooks. Are the notebooks available at some point? Are they available at some location?
So Vinayak, as of now, I haven't kind of made the repository public. So depending on the need, that can be facilitated. I would be glad to do that actually.
Sure. Cool. So thanks, Shikha. Thanks for your time. That was a very enlightening session, and I hope more startups can start using cognitive services. And I have pasted some links to the documentation as well to get you started. And as Shikha said, there are a lot of repositories on GitHub as well to help you get started and have a lot of sample code as well.
Sure. Thank you, Vinayak. I thoroughly enjoyed having the session, and I do hope the audience found it of value. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, bye. So we will see you again at the next edition of Azure Thursdays, and yeah, to see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.